I've been lucky enough to sell, lead sales teams, and teach sales skills on 6 continents over the last 30 years. In all that time, across all those different cultures, one thing stood out to me. Sales is a game of trust. The problem is much of what we're taught as salespeople, leaders, and humans works to erode trust. We decided to do something about that. Habits at Work helps leaders and sellers become more trustworthy. In fact, we're on a mission to make sales the most trustworthy profession on the planet. Welcome to today's edition of Trust Talk. I'm joined by a good friend, an old colleague, Jeff Jaworski, who is the founder, the CEO of The Shift. Jeff, it's awesome to have you here. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me on this Friday. I appreciate it.
Now, of course, I have to know, and I'm sure my listeners are curious, given all of your background at some of the world's leading tech companies, your experience as a seller, as a sales enablement professional, all the things you've done, why did you start The Shift, and why is it The Shift?
I love that question. I love that you focus on The Shift, and there is intention behind that. So, look, I've been in the industry for the past, 20 plus years, and I've sat at so many different tables. I was, a customer holding a 9-figure portfolio and budget for a long time at an agency. I sold for a while. I was a sales leader. And then the last 5 years, I was in L&D focused on sales capability and knowledge for thousands of managers and sellers across the world and building a global sales coaching program. So I've sat at all the seats, and for me, it was time to take those experiences and see if I can support others in doing the same. That's the goal.
Okay.
And the V part, real quick, is really important. The V is, in many cases, there's one really big shift to make that will make a transformational difference.
Okay, I want to know more about that because, as you've described, being a coach, I think, is so useful if you've been a customer, a performer, a manager, an enabler, a coach yourself. I know you're a qualified coach. So you've been all of those things. You've got all of those perspectives. But say more about there being just like one shift that makes all the difference, because I know, myself included, I think there's 100 things I've got to get good at and figure out and change to keep leveling up. Why just one?
Yeah. There's so many little tweaks and adjustments you can make, and those things are important. But at the end of the day, if you can put intense focus on the biggest, most transformational thing you can do, that will be what drives the sustainable behavior change and impact for you. And we'll get into this a little bit, but one big piece, as an example, you see me post a lot. I kind of do like some playful from to on this stuff, right? And there's this example of talking about being a seller and not a teller. Like a big shift for a lot of sellers to make is we spend so much time just talking at our customers, and we don't step back and go like, have I asked them any questions? Have I listened to anything they've had to say? Have I even checked in up front in this meeting to make sure we're having the right conversation? And I know those things, maybe as you hear them, might sound common sense, but if you actually take a step back, it is not a common practice at all.
Yeah. I know we've done work together on the subject of meetings, and we share a view that it's a tragedy how badly meetings are run. But how big an issue is that from your point of view?
Oh, yeah. So going into The Shift, when we thought through the sales coaching program at Google, that was the number one thing we focused on. We obsessed over how do we have more effective meetings, because we know they directly correlate to significant gains or losses in revenue. I hate to break it to the audience out there. If I were to extrapolate this out, there's going to be thousands of bad meetings today, bad customer meetings today across the world. And it will cost companies billions of dollars today and every day.
So here's the thing, though. Every time I ask people about meetings and their qualities, everyone says, most meetings I go to could have been an email. They were badly run. I'm not even sure why I was there. I was half asleep and so was everyone else. Or this person dominated the conversation. So what's going on? I'd love your coach's view. When everyone seems to be aware of the problem, but no one seems to think that it's my meetings that are run badly. It's just everyone else's. How are people missing this?
There's definitely, there is for sure a perception gap, right? So there's a lot of, customers might say, or you might say the meeting was ineffective, and you might say it after the meeting or on the side. And as a result, others just think like it's fine. It's also a vicious cycle that we've been going through with COVID, right? So you go through COVID, everyone moves into meetings, and a lot of it was like, I proved my productivity by having lots of meetings. Well, now we're trying to get into this post-COVID era, but we're now living the worst of both worlds, which is still lots of meetings and trying to get back into the office, right? So the combination of those things, it's almost become this snowball that's rolled down the hill, and we're having a really hard time just like taking a pause and saying, hold on a second, how do we do this differently? I'm big on analogies, so maybe if you want to play along and I'll give an example.
I'm a metaphor monkey, an analogy ape.
All right, I love it. So all right, so let's think about meetings like your favorite sandwich. Andrew, what is your favorite sandwich?
A toasted cheese and bacon.
Ooh, okay. A toasted cheese and bacon. I'm going to hand you a taco. Here's your taco with some spicy sauce on it. Oh, and by the way, I totally forgot to get a shell. So I'm just going to put it in a bowl for you.
Where's the sandwich?
What went wrong?
Well, you didn't listen to a damn thing I said, I think, is the first problem. And then you gave me a taco when I was ordering my cheese and bacon sandwich.
Yeah.
So is happening in meetings? It's
the number one rule of amazing meetings. Like, what did the customer actually order from you, right? I didn't even give you the sandwich you asked for. I walked in with a sandwich, or in this case, the taco that I wanted to serve you. And by the way, you may not have noticed, I told you there was no shell. And to me, an important shell or any meeting and a meeting sandwich is how you open it and how you close it. It holds everything else together.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that meetings happen inside a container, but the power with which you open that container and put the lid on at the end determines whether or not what happened inside carries through time and has an impact, or is just passing time and makes no difference at all.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what holds it all together, right? No matter how good the middle was, if we didn't get confirmation up front that we're having the right conversation, they might have just listened to you and glazed over through the whole thing. And then how many times do we run out of time and we try to keep going and we're a minute sorry that we're a minute over, sorry that we're 2 minutes over, sorry that we're 5 minutes over, and then you don't get to a wrap up and someone's like, I got to drop. They move on, and now you're just caught in this trap of like, okay, how do I now even carry this forward?
Yeah. And probably looking at all the burnout that so many people seem to be telling me about, and certainly I've experienced some of that, and I know you have too. I'm not surprised half the time if you just have a series of meetings that don't seem to end well, they don't complete well. It feels like it's using you up without filling you up with the satisfaction of actually getting things done.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on burnout and trust in the business world today?
Yeah, I mean, there's two pieces. So one, I was reading this report that BetterUp put out recently, and there was a stat that said only 32% of employees are actively engaged. So go ahead and reverse the number. So if you are not having the right type of meetings, but you also don't care, the combination of those things will immediately erode trust with your customers.
Right.
And then add, rising expectations, a lot of pressure, to deliver. If you're not actively engaged, the expectations are rising, you're not being properly invested and supported, it's a recipe for disaster.
Okay. I know, Jeff, from your very storied career, you've had the opportunity to have many coaches, to be a coach to many people, and now you are an independent coach. So tell us a little bit about your coaching practice inside of the shift, and who would use you? Why would they benefit from your particular style, and what is your style?
Yeah. Great question. So I'm, because of my experience as a customer, seller, sales leader, coach, and in sales enablement, I'm really specializing on sales, sellers, sales managers, leaders, and organizations within sales specifically, just based on my own domain expertise and the different seats I've sat at. For me personally, I've just seen firsthand, and especially through the coaching program that we built and delivered, there's so much more to a salesperson being effective beyond just, how do they run an effective meeting? There's also the person, right? So I talk a lot about, we need to put the person back in sales. How do we actually coach and make sure that we're building resilience? We're helping them prepare. We're giving them a psychologically safe environment to practice, make mistakes, mess up. I talk a lot about make the mistakes here, right? Judge your seller in front of the CEO. Don't judge them behind our walls when we're working through this stuff, right? And most companies, what happens is we invest a bunch of money in a one-time training and say, all right, we're going to get everyone trained on, building resilience, or we're going to get everyone trained on asking better questions. And the challenge I'll put out there to anyone in sales enablement or sales right now who's nodding at this, I would say, ask yourself the question, then what? The next time you are going to build a training, say to yourself, then what? Because I hate to break it to you, 90% of what they learn in that training will be gone in a week.
Yeah, the old Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, I think.
Yep. Yeah.
Jeff, how do you respond to this? People who are listening, who are salespeople, might say, Jeff, that's awesome, but I have a sales manager. I have an entire sales enablement at my company. I have all the access to the coaching I need. Why would I need you?
Yeah. I think in a lot of cases, you get caught in your own walls and you do the same, you just continue to do the same things, and, oftentimes need a new or fresh perspective. And I've been there too, right? Where you are thinking through these things in your own head or in your own walls with your own teams, and you run the risk of really just repeating the same things over and over again, right? So part of it is, if you need to make a shift and it's the same group of people and they are stuck and you can't figure that out, I would encourage you to find a trusted partner to help you work through that, right? And someone that has the experience has been there with you to do that. The other piece I'd offer on the manager front, so this is the thing I've said often. So when we were building the program, the number one objection we got, and by the way, I always prepare for objections. You do discovery and you know what you need to deliver back, right? Was, well, wait a second, this is the manager's job. And my answer to that was, I agree. And then, however, there's two challenges. One, managers are asked to do a ton of things, right? So they're asked to be a coach, an operator, do performance reviews, manage their quota, manage different metrics, things of that nature. They have a lot on their plate. So who knows how much time they're actually spending coaching. Number two, a lot of managers will say they coach their team, but they're not doing it correctly. They're not actually coaching them. They're just telling them what to do. They're just going into a one-on-one, they're hearing topics and they're going, do that, do that, do that, do that. That is not coaching. And that does not help your people grow.
Yeah. I've certainly seen a lot of that. And I know we've discussed before the dilemma that top performing salespeople get promoted to managers and they know how to do the job. So that's their tendency, is to do the job for their teams.
Correct.
Very different skill set being a coach. Yep. How would you coach a manager to be a better coach for their team?
Yeah, great question. Well, one, your comment on the frontline seller becoming a manager, I call those people super sellers. You should never, as a manager, you should never be the best seller. You need to build the best sellers around you. So the biggest piece I encourage with sales managers is really, and this does get into mindset shift, right? And I was there. Like, I can't tell you how many trainings I did where at the end of the training, I said, I need to do more asking and less telling. Over and over again, right? So I'm a recovering teller. I'm not sitting here saying like I'm perfect, right?
Hey,
it takes time.
Better than I am. I'm still suffering from it.
Yeah, I'm a recovering teller for sure. But what I'd say is, like, for a manager, I'd think about like, well, what's driving the importance of you just telling them what to do? How would it feel if you could actually give them the opportunity to identify the answer themselves? How would it feel for your seller to feel like they are empowered and have the autonomy to make decisions and make mistakes and learn?
Yeah. I've seen a lot of sales teams, and I do think sellers have access to sometimes good, sometimes extraordinary managers, and sometimes not. But I'm always of the view that the smart sellers are the ones who take a career view. Like, I'm going to be in this for the long haul, whether I get promoted and become a leader or not, and then realize that to lead is to sell. For most of us, we're salespeople our entire lives. And I know you've got an interesting perspective that coaching is a methodology for selling as well. So I don't quite know how you...
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Say a little bit more about that you should sell like a coach rather than like a salesperson.
I'm a big believer in so I would say sell like a coach. And if sellers actually went through formalized coaching training, I think it would actually make them better sellers. And here's why. When you go through coaching training, a couple things you learn. One, you need to be deeply present and aware in the conversation. Remove all other distractions, be fully focused and present in this conversation. Like, Andrew, imagine if like right now you and I were having this chat and I was like pinging on the side while this conversation was happening, right? So presence is incredibly important in that moment. Two, you need to be an incredible listener and truly and deeply hear what the customer is saying. You need to be great at asking very powerful questions that get to deeper root issues, not just closed yes or no type of questions. And you need to be able to take all those things back and then play back really powerful observations so that your clients might see something in you and in them that they may not have seen if you didn't do the deeper discovery. So those are really important qualities of an effective coach that honestly sellers should be employing more often.
Okay. You know, that rings true for me because both at Habits at Work and at the Kellogg Sales Institute, we have this view that to sell is to help another person make progress in their lives. And I'm sure if you ask many coaches, what is the job that you're doing, they would have similar kinds of language. And it just frees you up, I think, to be in service of someone, whether or not your products are fit.
Yeah.
It takes away that smell of motive, I think, that has so many people judge salespeople as untrustworthy. So
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, this is trust talk. And I know you've got a lot of thoughts on trust. What's the one thing you would coach someone as a salesperson to do that is your power trust building move, if you have one?
Oh, I mean, it's discovery. The power move is investing heavily in discovery and getting deep, like getting to deep root causes, root challenges, because that's where the trust is built. And that's where the bigger opportunities lie, right? Like, get out of these like little feature fighting conversations. Like, let's actually get to like the real stuff. And the real stuff is rooted in discovery. Now, someone might hear that and say, oh, okay, so you're just telling me to ask questions. Cool. Great. Like, I'll go do that. It's not just about asking questions. You have to actually package that up and understand, not only am I going to ask really powerful questions, I'm asking questions that show I genuinely care about your business and I'm willing to go deeper with you. And to your point, then be able to deliver honestly, hey, here's where I think I can help you. Here's where maybe I can't, right? Like, those are the things that bring true partnerships and true impact. But discovery, to me, at the end of the day, upfront when you're prospecting, obviously critical, but throughout the entire cycle. I've had sellers tell me like, oh, like, this has been my client for 8 years. I don't need to ask them any questions. I don't need to do discovery. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the world has changed, my friend. Like, if you have not checked in and asked them what's going on in their lives and their world in the last week, then you're missing an opportunity. And we make we make way too many assumptions, frankly, on what we think they need based on what we care about.
And it's such a subtle science, because I think every seller, if you spoke to them, would say, oh, of course, Jeff, should be doing a lot of discovery. I've stopped using the word discovery. We renamed it reconnaissance conversations, because I felt in the end that discovery has been taught so much as ask a whole lot of questions in order for you to discover. But there's a consequence to that. One is, your customers feel like they're being ambushed or interrogated. And two, it is very much a discovering. And on the receiving end of that, you've been on the receiving end of this, when someone just asks question after question, the answers to which often they could have got with a little research. It's annoying at worst, insulting at best.
Yeah.
And so I like the idea of looking with your prospect, sort of going into the field and doing reconnaissance versus let me take it out of you.
Yeah, I like that. I talk a lot about, like, you and the customer should be riding along together. Like, you should be alongside on that ride together, right? I'll offer, and I'll play off of the company name, but I'll offer a free question for the group. Like, a very simple one would be, because again, everyone has the shift. There's one shift they could make that would make a transformational change. They just haven't often explored it. Ask your customer, What is the shift you or your organization need to make to deliver the results you're hoping for this year?
I like that question. I'm going to do something extremely mean and put the question back on you. You're starting a new business. You've been in this coaching game a couple of months. So how would you answer that question for yourself?
I love that you played that back on me. So part of building trust is being vulnerable and honest with you, Andrew. Entrepreneurship's hard. I'm not going to lie. I'm a first-time entrepreneur. I've been in the corporate space for a very long time. The shift I need to make is to slow down and allow myself to take this one step at a time and enjoy this journey. Because oftentimes I reflect back on, making this transition. If I'm really honest, like I was severely burned out, completely and severely burned out. And I reflect back on that now and I say, look, like I want to build a business that's sustainable, that is purpose driven, that helps others really drive towards a purpose that they hope for in their lives and in their work and drive higher performance. And that will be a journey. And for me, that means being okay that this will take a little while and employing what I'm calling a snowball strategy. I just need to pack the snowball, do the right things up front, be open to conversations, be open to reconnaissance, as you call it, or discovery, and and see what emerges. But that's the biggest piece for me is I tend to have this habit. There's two versions of me. There's Hyper Jeff and Zen Jeff. The Hyper version just goes really fast and tries to get a lot of things done really quickly. The Zen version actually gets more transformational work done and does it a lot slower. So that's my answer for you.
Love the answer. And I especially love how, and you label it as vulnerable, you were about the fact that you're new, because so many entrepreneurs I see on LinkedIn, they announce their new business, be it coaching or otherwise, with the implication that they've got a full book, and no one's like that. I mean, we all started with 0 customers. I know you do, thankfully, have your first set of coaching clients already in the bag. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Early success. But of course, you got more room for growth. So speaking of that, I am a big fan. If you're watching now or the recording afterwards and you're thinking about, should I hire a coach? And if so, who's a great person for that? I hope you consider Jeff. Jeff, how do people find you, learn more about you, get the opportunity to have a discovery or reconnaissance conversation with you?
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for the conversation, Andrew. I would just say, going back to what I mentioned, I'm very much open to exploration. So if any of this resonated, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on LinkedIn, Jeff Jaworski on LinkedIn. You can email me at jeff@theshift.llc. Yes, my email is .llc. Or you can check out my website, which is www.theshift.llc. And again, I encourage you, if any of this has resonated and you just want to have a conversation, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Okay. Jeff, are you open to conversations of people who are in enablement, wanting to tap you for all your experience in that area, or are you really just wanting to focus on coaching individual high-performing or ambitiously high-performing sales?
My ambitious goal truly is I want to transform entire cultures at organizations. So that's my ambitious goal. The more time I can spend truly embedding myself in that, and part of what I am offering is fractional leadership, where I can literally come in and be a part of the organization and do that and be in that alongside with you. That's where my passion lies. And then within that, I will offer one-to-one coaching, group coaching. I'm willing to do talks at organizations as well. So that's the key. But like at the end of the day, I want to help organizations make this impact so it impacts more people. I'm just one person, right? So that's the goal. That's the ambition. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope my endorsement helps, but you just saw in the comments, our friend Tetsuya couldn't think of a stronger endorsement than that. Awesome friend of both of ours. I know.
Thank you, Ted.
The luxury of meeting some wonderful people at Google, and now as you move on to your next part of the career, I wish you luck, Jeff. Thank you for joining me here.
Yeah.
I strongly recommend, if you need a coach, call Jeff. And Jeff, I hope you'll come back and give us the updates and maybe some more shifts when you join us next time.
You got it. Sounds good. Thanks so much, Andrew. And thank you everyone for watching. Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.